All right, so today, guys, on Barnyard Builds, we've been talking about it since the beginning. We're finally going to do our high country swap. Actually, relatively cheap because I sold the bench seats for $400. I only paid $1,200 for all the seats, so really only going to cost me $800 to do this high country swap. So I'd say that's cheap. Come on, let's check it out. All right, so today we're going to get the Super Dually back here in the shop, and we're going to start doing our high country swap. There's several reasons we want to do this. One, power seats, heated seats, and cooled seats are going to be cool in this truck. Two, as we do this back seat, you're going to see that they're going to fold up, so it's going to give us more storage options for putting tools, hunting stuff, the dog. It's going to be a lot easier to put my daughter's car seat in and out with the quick loops that these new modern seats have. Plus, it's going to kind of complete our modern and plastic install. I've always loved this dark brown seat that they have. My Blazer even has the little mountains in it that the high country seat, that these high country seats do. So we're gonna put them in here. You'll kind of see we put them in one time, bolted them in, didn't really end up liking them, so we ended up going and cutting the bracket down a little more. If you hang out to the end of the video, we'll give you all the measurements. We'll give you a lot more up close shot of the brackets and how to do it. Of course, you'll always know if you hit us up in the comments, we're going to reply back and give you an answer to whatever your question might be. Backs look like they're going to go in pretty easy. We're going to weld some tabs on these factory brackets so we can still utilize the fold feature. But so far, pretty simple. We'll get over here and we'll show you how we're going to do these, and we'll do it and bolt them in, and you'll be able to see what they look like. All right, so we're going to come in here and cut this on this bottom line, come up and cut this out. The reason we're doing this is the seat is too tall in the back. I hit my head when I'm sitting back there, so we're going to shorten it up. We're going to shorten it up 2 inches, set it in the truck, see if we like it. If we do, we'll burn it in. If we don't, we'll cut another inch out of it. It's also going to mean less fabrication work for these center brackets of the seat. Then we'll be able to go in and make the back hooks, and the seat will be safe and it'll still fold up and everything, just like it did in the 2014 to 2018 trucks. All right, so we've got the back seats prefabbed, halfway in here type deal. What we ended up doing is we came off of these feet with another piece of metal, and then I crossed it back over here to use the factory seatbelt hole and seat holes. So we've got it here. We're gonna have to come over here. I've got a piece of angle iron we're gonna slide in here, drill through and bolt to this factory seat hole. And then we'll branch off with a piece of plate in the back and bolt it to the factory seat hole in the back as well. The reason I wanted these seats, a couple of reasons. One, they flip up, so it's nice if you're just throwing stuff in here, you got your dog in here. But two, they fold down, they have a nice lean to them. We are probably gonna slide them back another inch or two so we can get these factory back seat rest holders put in. I'll flip this down and show you what it looks like. So what you do is these are gonna go somewhere right here. Really have a good idea because it's already scratched up. But pretty much right there. So this right here is a 1/4 inch bar left over from a different project. To give you an idea, this already got a hoop in it. So basically we'll make a hoop. It'll come out just like this does, but right here, it'll weld here and weld here, and then it'll have a little bit of gap. And basically the seat's gonna, you put the back in first, slide that down behind it. And what that does is if you're ever in a car accident or anything, it keeps the back of the seat from folding up on whoever's sitting in it. If you have on here what you're going to use, you work it back in instead of working the big piece of the bar. It is a lot easier. I did leave this sitting on my wood stove for a while. Well, I did the first couple ones that have made it a lot easier to bend, obviously. But it's not been on there in the last 20 minutes or so, so it's going to be a little bit harder. To kind of get these bends started, I've been using a adjustable wrench, another adjustable wrench on it, sticking it in the vise and just cranking it over. Once I get that bend started, I'm taking a hammer, holding it down here and just bending it back around. Obviously, that's not the easiest way to do it, but it is the way I figured out to do it. So all right, so these are the little loops we made earlier. Obviously we're welding a really thin sheet metal, so welds aren't going to look the best. Everything's welded in. I did drill holes in them and rosette them just to add a little extra strength and contact area. So we're going to unbolt the seats. We're going to slide these guys in there, and then we'll bolt the seat back down. This just keeps the back from folding up in an accident. I don't really know why you need them, because the old seat that was in here folded forward and it didn't have little retainers or whatever, so probably just modern government overreach. But anyways, that's what it looked like. All right, so like I said, back here in the back, one of the killers of this truck to me when it had the bench seat was there's nowhere to throw like your tools and everything. You basically got to set them on the seat or set them in this little tiny space that was about this big when the other seat was in there. So with these seats, obviously they fold up. They're in the folded up position now, and we'll show you how we got those mounted in here. But when you flip this down, you got your seat. I can sit here. This is where I normally keep the seat when I'm driving anyways. I can sit behind myself and in front, no problem. You got a nice lean on these seats, a little better than before, and you even have a headrest. One of the other rest improvements that no square body has hardly is cup holders. We went from 2 in that little wobbly igloo console to 4 hard mounted cup holders. And if you were able to, if you had automatic and push that console to the dash, you could even put 2 more. So you could have 6 cup holders in a square body, which is like unheard of. So right here on this bracket, there's some little plastics to go in here. We had to cut these other 2 notches off to fit the seat in here. But we're gonna modify the plastics. It'll cover up, it'll be real clean, look exactly like they belong in here. Yes, the carpet is blue still. Hopefully for my birthday, we're gonna get some carpet in here, and we're gonna redo the door panels, redo everything, turn basically the whole interior cream and brown, and then probably just with a little bit of tan like for the carpet. So things like that, it'll contrast really, really well and look nice just like the Blazer does. All right, so when you're modifying these back seats, I can't take the credit for the idea. I messaged some of the other guys on the square body pages, and they hooked me up with some pictures of how they did theirs, and I just pretty much borrowed their design and went with it. Originally, we welded this tab here to bolt tag over and bolt in here. When I did that, and you'll see in the video, the seat is way too tall. Like my head is touching the roof when we're just riding straight down the road. I didn't like that. I ended up I was gonna have to build a pedestal for this middle bracket anyways. So rather than waste time building a pedestal for it and not be happy with the fitment and have the seat be like halfway up the glass, we came in here and cut 2 inches out of this. Basically, you can come up, cut 2 inches off, weld the factory foot back in place so it gives you more support, and then run your tab all the way underneath the factory thing and weld it all back in. So right here, all we did is, from the pictures one of our friends sent us on Facebook, we just measured from here down. His picture looked like they cut about 2 inches out, and that's pretty much where we're at. It's about 3 inches roughly from this rivet here to the bottom of the bracket. So if you cut that off 3 inches and then cut out your little shelf area, the back, there is a circle. You basically just come up to the little oval with your grinder and just cut that oval right out, and that turn right there is actually the factory turn from the oval. So that gives you enough for the little funky shelf back here. Then all you're going to do is get you another tab, weld onto this, which we shortened to, you know, probably 2 inches here as well. And then you can bolt in right to the back seat hole from the factory that's in the square body. So for the back seats, we didn't have to do anything to the floor pans or anything like that. We just tabbed over, bolted them in, and we're good to go. The other side is going to have to require a little spacer because it's a single seat and it just doesn't sit quite as straight as these do. And like we showed you a minute ago, still have a nice lean on it, still have you some space back there if you're going to put a sub box or, you know, rifle rack or tools or anything like that. You can still fit them back there. All right, so this is the middle bracket I was talking about earlier. To give you an idea, this thing was going to have about 2 inch pedestal to be able to make it reach before we cut the other side. So once you cut it down, this bolts right to the floor. I used way overkill bolts. I just got the same size that the hole was. I think they were like 9/16 bolts. So those alone will keep the seat from ever coming out of the floor. Luckily, where it bolted into the floor here was already braced up from the factory for the seat belts. So we just hooked the seat belts back to that bolt, and everything there is nice and braced up. We didn't have to build any sort of undercab mounts or bracing or anything like that, plates, none of that sort of stuff there. So that's nice and flat. Other cool thing about these seats is, if you're like me, you have a kid, and you might want to take your dog with you too. I really hate putting my dog on my seats. So, because they're, whatever this is, 60/40 or whatever the math works out to be, car seat goes here, seat gets folded up, dog can stand there, dog can still see out the window. Dog claws are not tearing up the seats. So another plus to going with these seats, if you like to take your dog, if you got 2 dogs and no kid going with you that day, you got it. I'm not really sure what these little hooks are for yet. I haven't quite come up with a cool use for them. I guess you could hang your grocery bags if you're using this as your grocery getter, so they don't fly all over the place. All right, so you folks that are like, oh no, we're not gonna have any leg room, you know, what are you gonna do? I'm 6'3", this seat is about 1 inch off of the back as far as the bottom bracket goes. This is where I keep my seat at when I'm driving the truck, because you got to be able to reach for that overdrive throw. Right here. I mean, my knees are not touching the seat. I have almost the same amount of room here as I do in my 2020 Yukon. This is comfortable, the back's comfortable. I would not hesitate to ride back here for at least 1.5 hours, 2 hours, at least down to the beach, you know. I'm not saying I want to ride cross country back here, but around town or out to eat or something like that with some buddies, no problem whatsoever. And of course, kids have smaller legs than me. That's pretty much all it's going to be riding back here anyways.